Lampley, along with HBO boxing analyst Max Kellerman, and our web editorialist and the legendary boxing historian Bert Sugar. We're getting ready for the big matchup tomorrow night between Mayweather-Marquez and the returning Floyd Mayweather. You've all just witnessed, in all probability, the last segment of the 24/7 series which has led up to the fight. Bert, when the fight was first made, the most noticeable element of this, it seemed to me, was the weight disparity and the ambition of Marquez in jumping up 2 weight classes, at least, to fight against Floyd Mayweather. What is the history of that in the sport? What are the good portents, if any, for Marquez?
Well, you look at Henry Armstrong. He was like an Indian rubber man. He won the featherweight title at 126. He then leapfrogged all the way up to win the welterweight title, and then came back down to win the lightweight title. It's been done before, but sometimes it doesn't work. I.e., Bobby Foster never lost a light heavyweight fight and never won a heavyweight fight. So I give you mixed messages.
That was 75 years ago when Henry Armstrong did what he did. He's one of the 4 or 5 greatest fighters in the history of the sport.
Easily.
So Marquez has to be matched against an extremely steep standard in order to find optimism there. And today, Max, you have the surprise news, really in the wake of everything that has led up to this, that Marquez weighed in at 142. And despite constant word of mouth since the fight was originally arranged that there was an agreed upon catch weight of 144, Mayweather weighed in at 146. We've now learned that the contract for the fight was reworked since this past Wednesday. Mayweather will pay $600,000 to Marquez for the right to weigh 2 pounds over the originally agreed upon limit. What are the implications of all that?
Well, I mean, Henry Armstrong went on to make 18 title defenses of his welterweight title. I don't think one time he showed up and said, you know what? I know we're supposed to fight at 47. I'm going to weigh 155 pounds tonight. You want to make this money with me tonight or not? He made the weight. Now, I suppose from an ethical point of view, if there's a stipulation in the contract that says there's $300,000 to Marquez for every pound over the 144-pound agreement that Mayweather weighs, then ethically Floyd is within his rights to show up a little heavier and pay Marquez the money. But I think there's a bigger kind of moral issue in boxing right now, starting with Castillo and Corrales several years ago, where one fighter tortures himself to make a certain weight. Another fighter never intends to make that weight, shows up the day before the fight for the weigh-in, and says, all right, this is what I weigh. You want to make money with me or not? And this is what these guys do for a living. Marquez has been preparing for this fight for 5-6 months of his life. This is his livelihood. What's he going to walk away? So he takes the money and he fights at a competitive disadvantage.
And incidentally, some opponents might have screamed bloody murder, but if there's one word that describes Marquez's personality, equanimity might do. He is as willing to get by this and go forward toward the fight probably as any fighter we could find.
We were in a fighter meeting earlier today, and you asked him, I believe you, it wasn't me, so it was either Emmanuel or you, who asked him, how do you feel about the fact that there were points in your career where you seemed to make the wrong business choices? Do you see this part of your career now in this big money fight against Money Mayweather as a way to make up for that? And do you remember his response? Equanimity is the perfect word. He goes, no, that's in the past. There's nothing I can do to change that. This is where I am now. And he's philosophical and very even-keeled. And one issue he may have against Mayweather is he fights that way too. The idea with Floyd is to get in and rough him up. And though Marquez can fight that way, that's not really his natural disposition.
So, though Marquez may have spent months thinking he was going to fight in a catchweight fight, at the end of the day, it turns out to be 1 pound short of a welterweight fight for Floyd Mayweather. As a historian, what's your take on catchweights? Miguel Cotto versus Manny Pacquiao is another catchweight fight coming up. Are these a bonus to the fans or a distortion of the sports standards?
Well, catchweights go back to the first decade of the 19th century, 20th century, 1905, 6, 7. You got them at all times. And they would say catchweight. That's what the word means. They catch a weight. But usually, there's not a stipulation in the contract. They just have agreed to it, and men can come up and down. I went to one fight, and I must tell you, it was a championship light heavyweight fight scheduled between Michael Spinks and Eddie Mustafa Muhammad. And it was down in Washington, D.C. They weighed him on an old Bureau of Standards, Klondike scale. It was 1830. And Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, who'd made weight on his scale in the bathroom, comes down, he's 3 pounds over. He figures the dickens with it. And they won't fight now in a regular fight because Eddie Futch, Spinks' manager, just says, championship or none. I bought a Pillsbury 10-pound bag of flour put it on the scale, and it weighed 13 pounds. So
That's a catch weight.
sometimes that was a catch and a weight.
Yeah. Hey,
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, but you brought up that there were no stipulations in the contract in those years for if you show up a little bit over the weight, it's going to cost you any money, because to put on an event like this, boxing generally requires such cooperation. It doesn't always seem that way, but such cooperation among all parties involved, especially between the fighters. There needs to be some kind of honorable standard, and in recent years, that's been flouted.
Now, let me ask you one quick question, Max. Do you think that Mayweather ever intended to make 144?
It doesn't appear that way to me. I mean, I don't think Castillo ever intended to make the weight against Corrales. I don't think Mayweather intended to make the weight against Marquez. I think he views it as a competitive advantage worth $600,000.
I agree. I think that is in all probability what happened here, that from the beginning this was a ploy aimed at giving the larger fighter a chance to come in with the biggest possible advantage.
And yet...
Paying a price for it, a monetary price.
Yes, but he's not going to gain a lot of weight in rehydration